morning and welcome to the Swiss Press Club, to the Geneva Press Club, based here in Geneva. Welcome to all of those who follow us or who are with us here on Zoom, and welcome also to all those who are following us live on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, on our page Facebook Live, or on our website www.pressclub.ch. Don't hesitate to join us there on Zoom or on pressclub.ch, where you can follow this press conference. We are going to have a press conference today about farm laws and farmers' protests in India. A very difficult and concrete subject that is having a lot of repercussions here in Europe, in Geneva also. So interesting, very interesting, important subject. I thank you to all the speakers to be here today. We have a good number of speakers. We have exactly eight speakers. So I'm very fond to receive you here all from different places in the world, I would say, mainly India, but not only, and to receive you here online at the Geneva Press Club. And without making any other speech, I will give you the floor, but I just want to present very shortly each of you, or let's say we are going to present you when you take the word, because your people won't remember who is talking at the moment. So we will start this press conference with Balbir Singh Raju. Mr. Balbir Singh Raju is president of the BKU Rajewal, and it's a kind of think tank of this of all this organization. So, Mr. Raju, I give you the floor. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not Raju, I'm Rajewal. May I start now?
Okay, let me see. Mr. Raju.
Rajewal.
Where is Mr. Raju? 1 second, please.
I'm Mr. Rajewal, not Raju.
Yeah, I get
Please
it.
Correct.
So, who is you're Mr. Raju, no? Okay.
I'm Rajewal, not Raju. My name is Balbir Singh Rajewal.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Raju, please take the floor. Open your mic and take the floor. Mr. Raju?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, gentlemen. We are in agitation from 26th of November 2020, sitting on the borders of New Delhi on the 3 laws that were enacted by the government of India in September 2020. These farm laws are an attack on rural India and its citizens and on the federal structure of Indian democracy. They were brought in during lockdown through ordinances undemocratically to facilitate easier and unaccountable operations of agribusiness corporates. Government of India has undermined the meager protection that exists to Indian farmers in the form of regulated markets and of poor Indian consumers in the form of regulations against holding and stock marketing and black marketing. Violating constitutional provisions, the Government of India has intruded into the domain of the state governments in the upper house of Indian Parliament, the Rajya Sabha, the ruling BJP flouted all rules to pass these laws. Despite requests for voting in the House by opposition members, the chairman intentionally paid no heed to the demand and passed these laws by voice vote, knowing well that the ruling BJP was in minority. Until date, it is in minority. Through these laws, Government of India has clearly signaled its future policy to dismantle the food security system in India, called our public distribution system, that is a PDS regime. Land alienation has been built into a contract farming law by creating a new unregulated market through new law has enough provisions to exploit farmers with low prices of their produce and collapse of regulated, tried and tested old markets. This new central agri-marketing law clearly proves that the government is stepping back from its responsibilities towards farmers. The free hand given to corporates in these laws in the entire supply chain from production onwards will cause huge economic distress to farmers to push out of agriculture and push them to suicides with no alternatives in other sectors of our economy. We have declared these laws as death warrants for farmers and are fighting for their survival and future of family farming in our country. The trying to discredit and attack our movement in various ways. We are peacefully sitting on the borders of New Delhi since 26 November 2020. We are determined not to give up until these laws are repealed and our demands accepted. We are, and we will remain peaceful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajewal. I'm sorry, I misspelled your name, Mr. Rajewal. Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Dr. Darshan Pal. You are the president of Krantikari Kisan Union, Punjab. And you are one of the leaders who have played a vital role in bringing the 31 organizations of this movement together. So, Mr. Darshan Pal, I give you the floor. I just have to identify you on here. Here you are. Please activate your mic. Mr. Darshan Pal, activate your mic. Mr. Pal, can you hear me? I can see you, but you have to activate.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Go ahead. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay. In 2008, I just want to dwell on that in 2018, UN declaration was passed regarding the peasants and other people living in the rural areas. And in that declaration, where UN Human Rights Council, few rights were provided to the farmers, where the farmers were given the right that they can have a right what type of development and what type of mode of life, what type of social system they are going to develop. The states were obliged for that they should consult, cooperate, and they should get the opinion of the farmers, peasants, and the other people who are in the rural areas, and get all their representatives, for example, their unions, to make any laws, to make any policy, to make any international agreement before that agreement takes place in application. So before that, the governments and the states, according to this declaration, had a duty to consult those peasants and rural people who are living in the rural areas. But in case of India, while these three ordinances and then ultimately which was framed as acts, they were framed, the Indian farmers or their organizations have not been consulted, because according to that UN declaration, the farmers, peasants, and the rural people have every right for their, even for their foodstuffs, food sovereignty, food stocks, way of life, each and everything they have.
Connection. We have a bad connection.
2018. So according to this declaration, we say, we the Organization of the Farmers of India, we say and we claim that the Indian government has violated those rights which were provided to the farmers of India, to the peasants and the rural people living in the rural areas of India, by not taking them into the confidence, by not having discussions with their representatives, by not having the opinion of the people who are sympathetic or who are pro-farmers, economists, or scientists, political scientists, or even political parties. So in that context, I want to say very clearly and very firmly here that we, the farmers of India, while we are protesting against this act, and where we have a very genuine case that Indian government has violated our rights, which were provided to us by the UN Declaration of 2018. Also, a second one, which, as Rajewal is saying, that we are not getting the minimum support price or remunerative price for our crops. For that also, we are demanding the government should come forward and should make a law so that we can have at least remunerative prices or minimum support prices for the crops, 23 crops which the government already declared them for those crops, 23 crops for which the government declares minimum support price. So according to these declaration of the UN, in which many rights for the, say, market access for the farmers to get transport, farmers to get other, say, storage facilities, farmers to get a minimum support price for that, for their land, livelihood, and life. They should be given the guarantee according to these declaration, various articles in 2.3, 3.2, 15, 16, 10, all these articles in favor of our farmers. And in India, these articles have been violated by the Indian government. And we ask through the media of the Western countries and of our country that this violation of the declaration of the rights of the farmers should be taken seriously, and government of India should be pressurized in favor of the farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Darshan Pal. And now I give the floor to Harmeet Singh Kadiyan. You're the president of BKU Kadiyan. And I would like to mention that your grandfather, Partap Singh Kadiyan, was a founding member of the Indian Farmers Union formed in 1971. So thank you for being here, Mr. Harmeet Singh Kadiyan. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Father Alderman. Our struggle has been historic. Thousands of peaceful protesters occupying Delhi border for nearly 5 months now after waging months of struggle earlier in the state of Punjab. What starts off a movement in Punjab has spread to many other states, and it is now a people's movement with many sections of society supporting us strongly. The culture of seva, which is a part of Punjabi society and communal immunity between different religions, has been the hallmark of the farmer struggle so far. There has been a reassertion of farmers' identity, including rural youth. Hundreds of farmer organizations have joined hands in the struggle and are learning from each other and learning to work with each other, which bodes very well for the future of the Indian farmer. With the broad-based leadership and collective functioning, we are going strong, and we believe that the day is not far away when the government has to fulfill our reasonable demands. This will end the suicide of the farmers in the nation, our nation, because MSP is not giving to us, and there is number of suicides due to the government policies, and there is no minimum hospitality and minimum education for the farmers, and farmers are living in very bad condition in the India. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Harmeet Singh Kadiyan. And now I give the floor to Ms. Kavita Kuruganti. You are from the Alliance for Sustainable and Holistic Agriculture, ASHA-Kisan Swaraj network. I'm sorry for my pronunciation. It's probably very bad pronunciation. Your organization is a national network that tries to integrate economic profitability, environmental sustainability, and social justice issue. So thank you for being here. The floor is yours, Ms. Kavita Kuruganti.
Thank you for that. I want to dwell upon sustainability issues that emerge, environmental sustainability issues that emerge from these 3 central laws that have been enacted in India undemocratically. To begin with, the government said that these were meant to create reforms with an economic agenda that the government had in mind. But any reform which focuses only on so-called market reforms, but does not explicitly address issues of environmental sustainability in this day and age, you can assume that it's already begun failing. I mean, you can't have this siloed, separate sort of approach to environmental sustainability and economic agendas. Admittedly, what we had before the laws were brought in is not a very environment-friendly setup in terms of the fact that the government was supporting the purchase of only a few crops. But even so, these laws have the tendency to exacerbate the situation and make things worse. And I will dwell upon 3-4 points as to why we believe so. The agricultural marketing reform law, which in India we keep calling as a certain regulated markets bypass act, which promotes unregulated markets for corporations. This law in the medium term is expected to displace small and marginal farmers from agriculture because they would simply find it completely unviable to stay afloat. And when they get displaced, land consolidation is likely to cause more unsustainability in an environmental sense. In addition to that is the issue that if somebody does manage to stay back in farming, just staying afloat in an everyday survival game is going to be so difficult that farmers will be forced to be misadventurous with their farming practices. They are bound to use more chemicals, draw more water from the deeper aquifers, and use unsustainable seed technologies and so on. And this is supposed to lead to unsustainability, which in turn will have more economic implications for the farmers. The contract farming law is supposed to certainly break the autonomy of farmers in terms of being able to take their own decisions, use their own local skills and knowledge, and without that, getting into a regime where the external sponsoring company will get to dictate cropping patterns as well as what farm practices get used by farmers. This is once again bound to lead to chemicalization of agriculture, as well as more use of water, and generally a larger carbon footprint that's left behind at the production end. A third law that legalizes hoarding and black marketing of food by dismantling regulation that exists around food supplies at this point of time. It is supposed to bring in a Western model of food consumption, and it's not a matter of just food production practices changing. And I think, we'll end up having higher wastage of food than we have at this point of time, which is actually quite minuscule compared to what other countries in the world face in terms of food wastage. All in all, we'll end up having a larger carbon footprint from our farming if these laws are allowed to continue. And this unsustainability will have implications for the medium and long-term continuation of farmers in our farming. On the other hand, what the farmer unions are asking as a solution to the existing problem is that of guaranteed remunerative prices. This legal guarantee that farmers want will actually allow them to get into crops that are suitable for their local soil conditions, their local climatic conditions, and their growing socio-economic conditions also. That is certainly bound to usher in more sustainability. And if that law can be a nuanced approach that the government is forced to adopt, it can even have agroecology incentivized more explicitly so that we have a future for farmers in India, which is both profitable as well as sustainable. Thank you so much. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kuruganti. And now I turn myself toward Joginder Singh Toor. I give you the floor. You are a lawyer practicing in Punjab and Haryana High Court on civil and constitutional matters, and you are very concerned by these questions of the farmers' rights today. So, Mr. Joginder Singh Toor, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the time. May I state a few words that these laws are violative of the declaration, UN declaration of the 18th. Article 6 of the declaration provides that peasants and other people have the right to life, physical and mental integrity, liberty and security. All these things do not exist for the farmers in India. A farmer in India is said to have born in debt and dies in debt. And for that, the struggle has been going on for the last 100 years. For 100 years, but the things have not improved. What happened after independence, the scarcity of food was very grim in India. We had to extend our hands to the foreign countries for purchasing food. In 1964, there was famine conditions, and the Prime Minister of India had to say to the Indians that forego one-day meal so as to save food for others. India then asked the Indian farmers, particularly the state of Punjab, Haryana and Western UP, that you help the country in producing the food grains. And they worked so hard that they brought a green revolution in up to 72, not only sufficient for India, but made surplus food. Then the government was asked that to assist the farmers and to encourage them. A commission was appointed in the year 1964 to fix the prices of the produce of farmers, so as the farmer knows at what price my produce would be selling for. The commission was asked to fix the price, but it lacked one thing. It was not asked to consider the cost of the crop which the farmer has incurred. Then another commission was appointed in 1985 to consider, that was the commission for agriculture cost and prices. Consider the cost also. So the parameters which were given to the commission were detrimental to the rights of the farmers. they were rather made so as to lower the price of the price to be fixed. So as a result, the price which was fixed as minimum support price less than the cost incurred by farmers. So the farmers agitated. Why so? Instead of solving this problem, the government of India, in order to encourage the corporate sector, which wanted a free market in India, a hassle-free trade and no checks and no tax to be paid. So the government of India, in one day, in a single day, when the conditions in India under the COVID were serious and grim, they brought 3 ordinances in a single day and later on converted those ordinances into law passed by the parliament in a way which has been described by my friends dubious and scandalous. Now, what is the question now? In 64, if I'm not taking more time, but I have to explain what is happening. In 64, the government passed a Food Corporation of India Act and entrusted the Food Corporation of India under section 13 of the said act that you have the duty to purchase the farmer's produce. So that being so, the government of India, instead of purchasing, which they started purchasing, has now abandoned this process. They have excluded itself from the category of traders. Earlier, the definition of the trader, which was to produce agricultural produce, was the individual, the corporate society or a firm, and also the government agency, a public sector undertaking, and the corporation, Food Corporation of India. Now, the definition which has been given in the present laws excludes the government as a trader. So the government has walked out of the system, and the law which has been framed is such that it has destroyed the existing system of the Mandi system, which was established right in 1939 by Sir Chotu Ram. That system has been destroyed. The provision which has been made now regarding the Mandi system, the marketing system, has defined a trade area, which does not include the present system created in the process of 100 years. That has to be destroyed. It's going to be destroyed because in the trade area, it is not to be excluded as a trade area and not to be purchased from there. So the government has given a free hand to the corporate sector, a free market and hassle-free trading and tax-free purchases. We are this of our constitution has made the federal system effective, defining the areas to be exercised by the state governments and the central government and to be jointly exercised. 3 lists were drawn. One for the states to legislate on those subjects, other for the central government to legislate on subjects mentioned therein, and the third concurrent list, which both can do. In the state list, agriculture is in the state list. Entry 14 is state list, agriculture. Now they have overstepped it. They say that we have amended the constitution to make an entry in the third concurrent list, entry 33, that trade and commerce is also within the purview of the concurrent list. We say that it does not, because agriculture is different. Agriculture includes trading also. You produce and you sell also. The government has taken the selling part away. The government has said that the selling part we will define how to sell it. Otherwise, suppose I produce sugarcane and I sell it. This is part of agriculture. This is definition of agriculture. Once I sell and the sugar is produced, it is not agriculture. It is then industry. So the government, the laws which have been framed by the government are violative of the Constitution of India, are violative of the UN Declaration, and are violative of the rights of the people who are suffering and are agitating the agitation deliberately. So there is a lot to say, the time being constrained. So with this, thank you very much for giving me the time.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to Harmeet Singh Gill. You're the General Secretary of Sri Guru Singh Sabha South Hall. Perhaps better if you say it. Thank you, and the floor is yours, Mr. Gill.
Thank you. No, and you got the name of the organisation right. Yeah. So there's significant interest from NRI communities all around the world, and many have relatives, friends, families who are dependent on farming, who have ancestral home in India. Those of us outside of India can see our relatives back home feeling a sense of hopelessness, and that will be driven out of their lands through these reforms. Now, the claims of the Indian government simply don't stack up economically, environmentally, or legally. Our organisation sanctioned a report which was kindly prepared by the Sikh Human Rights Group, which is available online, which methodologically shows why these reforms are bad for farmers and bad for India. And this is why so many people outside of India stand in solidarity with farmers. We're, of course, all impressed how peaceful the protest has been, the dedication, discipline, and the solidarity shown by all those protesting. It's truly commendable. Now, there have been attempts to malign the protest as funded by hostiles or secessionists, and you know, these are simply not true. They're just attempts by the Indian state to avoid the core subject of the farmers' demands and an attempt to run away from the argument, as they know the bills are not in the farmers' interests, but rather they only serve to help a small number of Indian oligarchs. The world feels for the farmers. They stand steadfast with them. We truly admire them for standing and staying put through the cold, the rain, and now the heat. And of course, we want the Indian government to resolve this through dialogue and firm commitments in accordance with the UN Declaration on Rights of Peasants that it lobbied for themselves. We want to see the many old and young people be able to go back home to the villages with the knowledge that the land is safe and the way of life is secure. India is damaging its reputation and standing around the world. The survival of the farmers is on the line, so it's critical for a resolution to be found that is acceptable to the farmers and meets their needs and demands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So, and now we'll go to Nicolas Walder. So it's easier for me. I know he's in Geneva here, not too far from the press club. Welcome, Mr. Walder. You are a Swiss parliamentary for the Green Party. You were also a former mayor of Carouge, which is a city of Geneva, in the canton of Geneva. And you are concerned also by those questions of globalization and social regulations and also farmer problems. So the floor is yours, and welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ruetschi. Just to precise also that I'm a member of the Commission of Foreign Policy in Bern and Vice President of the Green Party, the Swiss Green Party. So we effectively very concerned about what is happening. As a preamble, I would like really to thank you for the invitation and to tell you how honored I am to speak among you and to hear what you have to say. And really, as I said when I entered floor, we are very inspired by you fight the fight of the farmers and the citizens in India. Because I think it's a civilization fight. It does not concern only India, it does not concern only Punjab or certain regions, but it concerns the whole population and the world. I think the fight for agriculture in a human scale agriculture is a civilization fight. And I'm going to express myself a bit on that now. I also to take this opportunity that I condemned strongly the reaction of the government and security forces towards demonstrators in near Delhi, but in other parts of India. This is not acceptable. In democracy, we are in Switzerland one of the oldest democracy. You are one of the largest democracy, or the largest democracy. And I think we should be able to talk about farming in a decent way, in a consensual way. You know, in Switzerland, we're going to vote in June on two subjects, looking at with the objective of phasing out the use of pesticides and chemicals in agriculture. That's going to be discussed among the population. It is discussed with the farmers, and it is not only discussed between the government and big agri industries. So it is, as I said, also the way it is brought by your government that is a problem. So repression, it is also, I think, a problem in India now, the will of the government to step down the importance of the region and the states. And this is symptomatic, this question of farming, that the central government would like to more and more centralize. And Switzerland is also a federal state as India. And we know the importance of the different states to stabilize the country, but also the equilibrium of power, which is important on a long-term base. So this is the second concern, I would say, that I have personally on these three farm laws. And the third concern is, of course, what has been discussed today. The main reason of my presence is that, to my concern, it put into question the whole farming system of India, socially speaking, but also environmentally speaking. Contrary to what certain people say, nowhere in the world industries or agri-industries have driven us the agricultural transformations. In Switzerland, like in the rest of the world, all new initiatives on ecological or animal-friendly or organic farming have been brought by small farms or the group of small farms, but never by agro-industries. So it's completely wrong to think that by giving it to agro-industries, we're going to have suddenly big to realize big successes on bringing a more eco-responsible farming in India. The second thing I would like to say about that, the raising environmental standards among agricultural system in India is very important, but it won't be brought by the food giants. It's impossible. It's going to be brought by little farms. And I think UN Drop and all the United Nations system is asking more and more to give more and more power to the small farmers, because they are in capacity of changing the system, making a more local, a more responsible system. Of course, today you have in India a problem with an ecological, a big ecological problem with the over-farming. The Green Revolution was a very good system that brought food sovereignty in your country, or more or less, but it has big ecological consequences. And today you have to face it, but it's not by giving the food industry and the farming to the big private companies that you're going to solve that problem. And those laws are very, views from Swiss perspective, are very dangerous, as you're facing already a lot of suicide and a lot of poverty in this sector. And I think you're gonna lose a lot of jobs also if you are giving it to very big structures. And that is also a big problem for India, but also for the stability in the whole region. We need India to be strong, and your country to be strong needs farming industries, but not industries, but farmers to be strong. So all that to say that for us, the agrarian crisis in India is real. Switzerland, I mean, in my concern, it is a social crisis, but it's also an ecological crisis. We have to deal with it. But you have to deal with it not by submitting your your agricultural system to big agro industries. You have you can see liberalization in the whole world, and we have it in Switzerland, can only work if you can subsidize largely agriculture. No liberalization have brought a sustainable agriculture industry. It is impossible. Look at United States, look at Europe, European Union, look at Switzerland. Subsidies to the agriculture system are enormous, and not less than what India, your government, is paying now. So to think that liberalization is compatible with sustainable agricultural industry with little farmers is a mistake, and it's a lie. The other thing some of you refer to United Nations. Yes, to my concern, we should more and more respect the United Nations Declaration on the right of farmers, the right of peasants and other working in rural areas, the UN drop. And they are very clear, we should increase participation of the farmers in the regulation of their field. We should implement fair trade standard. It means that the food industry should be based on the sustainable revenues for farmers and dignity for farmers. We should promote small and medium farms, and we should promote also the conversion of farms into sustainable farming, but that is only done by an encouragement from the government towards the farmers. And at the end, only when the farmers are capable of ruling the sustainable and converted the farm, then legislation should be reinforced in order to impose certain values ecologically and socially. So to conclude, just to tell you that you are completely right to fight against these laws for your own sake, for the sake of your country and your population, but for the sake of the whole world. Thank you very much. Sustainable future should not be sought by offering itself to the agri-business multinationals, but to raise the autonomy and the capacity of anyone, especially the farmers, to live in a decent life. Thank you very much. And really, a lot of people in Switzerland are with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nicolas Walder, Swiss parliamentarian and vice president of the Green Party. And now we are giving the final word to Yasdev Singh Rai. You are the director of Sikh Human Rights Group and the member of the Faith Community Consultative Group. The floor is yours, Mr. Singh Rai.
Okay. Thank you. We've heard quite a lot, actually, and I think everything has been put in perspective. I'm just going to talk about the democratic deficit in India that has brought us to this situation. India is the world's largest democracy with many minorities, languages, and previously independent kingdoms federating as a union in 1947. It has a bicameral parliamentary system. There are two houses. The lower house, the main parliament called Lok Sabha, has 550 seats elected directly by people. The seats are divided according to size and population in its 28 states and 8 union territories. It is a first past the post system. The upper house, called Rajya Sabha, has about 245 seats. Apart from 12 members appointed by the president, the Rajya Sabha largely represents the 28 states in India, just as the Senate does in USA or the Council of States does in Switzerland. But upper house is based on almost similar principle of division of seats as the lower house. That is, seats are allocated to each state according to size and population of the state. Representatives are chosen by state legislature. It follows the Westminster model of majoritarian system voting. In contrast, the states in USA have only 2 senators each, irrespective of the size or population of the state. Similarly, in the Council of States in Switzerland, each cantonment has only 2 members each, except 6 cantonments, I think. The political purpose of the upper house has never been clear to me. It protects neither states nor minorities. Small states like Punjab or Haryana only have 7 representatives or 5, whereas Uttar Pradesh has 31 representatives. Half of the states in India, between them, only have 36 seats out of the 245. So it's not difficult to see that the federal nature of the country is dependent on the goodwill of the largest few states that between them have around 70 seats. The Hindi heartland with 2 other pro-Hindu nationalist states have over 130 seats. Okay? This means the small states are at a disadvantage to protect themselves from a powerful central government taking over their powers through constitutional amendments or constitutional creativity, as has happened in the farmers' dispute, and Joginder Singh has articulated so well. The framework of Indian constitution is largely based on the 1935 All India Act that was introduced by the British to rule over India. Following 1935 Act, the current political structure empowers larger states and majority ethnicity to dominate over small states or minorities without the institutional checks and balances. It is often led to politics and Supreme Court to mediate. This is the democratic deficit that has led to many issues in India since 1947, with popular national parties pushing boundaries of their power over states and minorities repeatedly. This imbalance of power often hinders an equitable discussion to resolve issues. Since there is little constitutional option to safeguard their interests or future, except through using human rights option of protesting, we are seeing one of the largest peaceful protests as counterbalance in this case. The farmer leaders have expressed the need for reform. The government wants to introduce reform. Somewhere the two need to come together and decide on reforms agreeable to all by putting aside the asymmetrical dynamics of power imbalances and external influences or other agendas. And we really hope sincerely from outside that this will happen, that the government of India will put aside the asymmetrical power relation it has with the states and conclude this long going on protest with old people, old women there, children, etc., suffering in the heat, the cold, and currently the COVID. And I hope we find a resolution that will be agreeable to all the stakeholders in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Yasdev Singh Rai, Director of Sikh Human Rights Group, for these considerations. So now we are going to the questions. So all those who want to ask a question, please raise your electronic hand, if I may say so. You have to click on the bottom right of your screen on reaction, and then you click on raise your hand. So I can give you the floor and open your microphone if there is any question. We have already one question. So I repeat, just click on the right bottom floor, reactions, and raise your hand. So, and before asking your question, please tell us your name, the organization for which you work, and tell us to whom you addressed your question. Thank you very much. So I open the mic to we supporters of family, farmers' family. Hello?
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, so my name is Simran. I'm just an ordinary citizen, but we've set up a Facebook group called We Support Our Farmers. Very, very upset by the happenings that are happening. And we would just like to know from Mr. Rajewal if there's any possible date of when this impasse would end, because currently it seems like we've got to a dead end. And we are very concerned. We absolutely love our farmers. We want this to be resolved, but it seems like we are dealing with a very undemocratic, very fascist, very very horrible government. And can we get to a solution, if any, please?
Yes, so okay, thank you very much for the question. Can you please, Mr. Rajay, can you please answer? Your question was to whom? Can you repeat that?
It was for 1 minute. For, I can't, 1 minute. I can't. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So it was for Mr. Rajewal.
Okay, let's try to find Mr. Rajewal. Mr. Rajewal. Sorry, I can't. 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't.
I can see him.
You can see him. Okay. So, Mr. Rajan, can you answer, please?
Yeah. I'm thankful to the ma'am. She's worried about the farmers of Punjab. This agitation is not only restricted to the Punjab. Only today, it has gone up to the tail end of the India, and we are always ready to negotiate with the government. This is not. There is nothing from our side. The government is adamant. They are not coming on the negotiating table. So we think this is not the democratic way. We have been peaceful. We are peaceful. We will be peaceful. We guarantee that. The world has seen that for the last 5 months, we are sitting peacefully, harming nobody. But the government has closed all the routes to Delhi from the borders where we are sitting. So I think the government should come forward for its solution. We are ready to negotiate.
Thank you very much. So there is another question. Samita Kaur, the floor is yours. Can you ask your question? Yes, we hear you.
You can hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
My question is that we know that the government is not going to help us. We know that they are adamant and vindictive. So my question is both to Mr. Rajewal and Dr. Darshan Pal. So right now, our people are have been very patient. They have a lot of perseverance, because that's what farmers are about. Farming is about all perseverance, patience, and hoping for the best. So what we usually hear is that this is a long haul. So what exactly do you anticipate? For me, I feel this is a litmus test to the Modi government. He has dug his own grave, and the farming, these farm laws and the protest for them has integrated so many people across India. For the first time, I've seen so much of unity after independence, that people have come together. So if they have a message, what would that be to everyone in India and abroad?
Thank you very much for your question. So perhaps Mr. Rajewal, and then the second person was?
Dr. Darshan Pal.
I would like to tell my brethren sitting in other countries that this is not we, the farmers, who are at fault. What the government says each and every time is that please kindly save us. Izzat bacha do, hamari izzat bacha do. Find some solution through which government ego is served. So what can do for that? We have proved that these laws are anti-people, anti-farmer, anti-national. So we have proved our case, but the government is adamant.
Thank you. Hello. I guess
Doctor, anything you can add?
I'm afraid we lost you, Mr. Rajewal. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, but the connection is very, very bad. Let's try again. Do you want to finish, please?
It's not very clear. It's not clear.
Yeah, it's not clear. So perhaps Mr. Darshan Pal, do you want to add something to Mr. Rajewal's answer?
Yeah. The Samita's question is very correct. That first time this Modi government is facing a strongest resistance from the farmers of India. In its 6 years rule, it's the first time that this government is facing a largest protest of the people of not only farmers, but the people of India. But The government is very adamant. The people, and particularly farmers, they think that these acts are the death warrants for them. Already they are committing suicides. With these 3 acts, it will be very much horrible situation for the farmers. So farmers and their organizations and their unions, they came with the commitment with their farmers, with the people, that they will come back only after the laws are repealed and they get the MSP, that is C2 plus 50%, according to Swaminathan Commission's report. So now it's a question of whether the unity of the people of the India wins or the Modi wins. I think you are right that it's a litmus test now in between farmers and the Modi government. So let us see what happens. There are very untoward incidents also. Situation is becoming bad so far as the COVID is concerned. So in all these situations, the farmers are committed. They have decided not to go back home empty-handed. They will go if they get the laws repealed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have another question again from the same person. Please, you can switch on your camera too if you want, so we can see you.
How do I? Okay. So can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So hi, my name is Simran. I wanted to ask a question to Mr. Nicolas Walder. Hi, Mr. Walder. Thank you so much. It's very heartening to see that we've got support from people like yourself, because it seems to me that in this country, all our avenues have been blocked. The elected government is actually not willing to listen to a majority of its people. And that is very disheartening, very sad. It fills lots of us with rage, but we've got to be pragmatic and think rationally. So in terms of you, Mr. Walder, do you think that we can get some kind of global support? Because the laws were passed undemocratically. The farmers have been tear gassed. They've been put into prison. Elderly farmers are dying. There is no support at all from the government. We've had so many deaths and not one word of condolence from the so-called Prime Minister when he's out doing election rallies. So it fills me with almost uncontrollable rage. So what can we expect from the global community? Is there anything that globally that can be done to put an end to this arrogance of the government?
Thank you, ma'am, for this question, and I give the floor to Nicolas Walder.
Yeah, thank you very much for your remarks and especially for your question. If I had the answer, I would be, I think, very rich and everybody would be happy. No, I don't know how to initiate a reaction from the international community, especially now that the international community, I mean the democracies among the international communities are quite occupied with Russia, Turkey, and even more with China. You know that the human rights situation there is preoccupying. So it's true that I don't see today a reaction, and I cannot imagine a strong reaction, a political reaction among the international community. But I see more and more reaction in the street, more and more reactions from the NGOs, from the union, agricultural and farmers union around the world. They are very powerful in countries, even in our country, and even so, farmers are maybe a couple of % of the population. They are very powerful, and they can raise those questions. So I think there is an international reaction, but it's more in the street, and it's more among the NGOs, the human rights defenders, and it will evaluate according to the reaction and the forces, the violence used by the government or not. Because the biggest reaction I heard was due to the violence of Modi's reaction to the demonstration, and not by the problems of the farmers. So, you know, it can evaluate. But for timing, I think you should more count on NGOs, on individuals, certain political parties, and on the farmer unions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walder. And now we have a question from Simranjit Radhawa. Please tell us your organizational name, please.
I'm just a UK citizen. My parents were all in farming in the Punjab. We are second, third generation Sikhs in the UK. I've just been following the farmers' protest through Twitter. My question is for Mr. Rajewal and possibly the British Sikh organisation that's here. I've been reading by reports that the protest sites aren't being vaccinated and sometimes they're attending rallies. And also there's Dr. Singh who's been asking for vaccinations for the farmers. And I now know that the ceremonies are going to allow private organisations to buy vaccines from the 1st of May. So I'm just wondering if there's been any action towards this or any plans towards purchasing or procuring vaccines for the farmers. That's the main question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajewal. Can you please activate your microphone and answer? I hope the connection will be better. Can you please activate? Mr. Rajewal, can you hear us? Yes.
Hello. I couldn't listen to the question. Please repeat again. Kindly repeat the question.
Oh. Yes.
It is not clear.
So, listen, I can't hear you. So perhaps we go to next, or who else would like to answer the question? Is there anybody from the group who wants to answer the question, please?
I think the ma'am is from Punjab region. I can tell her that we are the disciples of Guru Arjan Dev Ji Pasha, Guru of the Sikhs, and we are disciples.
I'm sorry, the connection is very bad. Please, Mrs. Randhawa, can you please tell us who else you would like to hear? I'm sorry, Mr. Rajewal, but we can't hear you. I'm very sorry. Ms. Randhawa?
Yes, I'm here.
This is Kavita speaking. I heard the question about vaccine supplies for farmers. There is a vaccination drive that is underway in different protest sites. And it's not just about vaccination for the protesting farmers. The medical camps that are being run are taking care of a whole lot of medical issues for even the local people. So it's underway right now.
Thank you very much for this answer. And we have another question from Samita Kaur. Yes, we hear you. Hello?
Hear me? Yes.
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to introduce myself. Simran and I, we belong to the same team. And Ms. Randhawa's question regarding the vaccination, you see, individuals cannot purchase this vaccine. So it's up to the government, and they have been, like, vaccination has to be under certain conditions before it is vaccinated. There are proper precautions that are to be taken. So
can you please talk a bit louder? We can barely hear you, please.
All right. Individuals cannot purchase this vaccine directly over the counter. So proper precautions need to be taken to keep this vaccine. So people like Dr. Swayman needs to get proper permission from the government because he is not established in India. So it's not possible for him to, directly get. It's up to the certain organizations, NGOs who are already there. They can procure that vaccination after giving their proper licenses submitted to the government, and I think they'll be able to do so. So I hope I've answered the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Are there other questions? Okay. Perhaps just I would like to ask one more. There is one more question. No, no more questions for the moment. Yes, Ms. Ivan Remci, please, can you activate your microphone? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the...
Can you tell us who you are and what organization?
From the University of Geneva newspaper. I was wondering if there were any measures regarding the COVID during the protests in order to prevent the spreading of the virus, because as I've seen, the protests have been quite massive, and which were the measures that the organizers put in place in order to prevent the spread of the virus. I thank you.
Thank you. Who can answer this question about the measures taken against COVID during the protests? Who can answer?
Mr. Darshan Pal.
Who would like to answer?
I'm Darshan Pal.
Mr. Rajewal. Okay, we listen.
Darshan Pal.
Okay, Darshan Pal. Yes, we listen to you.
We have educated our mass people. We are telling them to keep distance. We are asking them to take the mask. We are asking them, whosoever wants to get the vaccination. And if there are any symptoms, fever, cough, sore throat, and that any of that patient, whosoever has that symptoms, we ask them to get tested. But till today, we could not find in this massive crowd any farmer having such symptoms of a disease like COVID. But we have already, from our from our stage and from our meetings, in all group meetings, we are advising the farmers to take all precautions to get themselves prevented from the COVID.
Okay, thank you. There is another question from Support Farms. Please activate your mic.
Can you hear me, everyone?
We can hear you.
Yes, so my name is Simran Sandhu. Samita and I are part of this farmers group. I was just answering Mr. Ivan's question. So the farmers' protest has been happening for so many months. Till date, we have never actually heard of a farmer being diagnosed with COVID and hospitalized or died. Most of the deaths that have occurred on the sites have been due to suicides, heart attacks, due to the cold conditions, lack of, because it's too hot these days. So the COVID pandemic, personally, I feel what's happened is we had the Kumbh Mela, which was not supposed to be held till next year. That was held this year. So thanks to the Prime Minister and his bunch of buffoons, we've had the pandemic has increased to such proportions. I think it is only a government's ploy to put an end to the protests by creating this hype amongst people to say that COVID has happened. I'm not saying that COVID has not happened, but it was never started by the farmers' protest. The farmers, as far as I know, where they are sitting, it's completely ventilated. Farmers have got an education. There are medical teams on site. So whatever's happening today has not happened because the farmers are collecting in large numbers and protesting. This is Number one, a ploy of the government, another fascist move to put an end to the protest. And secondly, the rates of the pandemic have increased because we've had lakhs of people spreading this pandemic coming from the Kumbh Mela and then suddenly spreading it to the rest of the India. So what I'd like to say in simple words is that farmers have not actually spread the pandemic. It's a complete false narrative. And because most of the news agencies are bought, so most of the news agencies are bought by the government. This narrative doesn't go public. National newspapers never get to see it. That's my point. Thank you. Sorry, I got very heated.
No problem. But do you want to ask? Somebody wants to react to this? If not, we jump to the next question.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. And Samita Kaur is asking again. Hello? Samita Kaur?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Adding to Simran's statement, I would like to add...
Yes, please go closer to your microphone. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Yes.
A bit better, yes. Please go close to the mic.
The question, the statement of Simran, my question to Dr. Darshan Pal is that how can we help as the group? We are a group here based in Chandigarh and we are spread all over India. We've been trying to help out. How do we help out more to spread out the awareness and create to help out in other ways like sending medicines, etc., and creating awareness amongst people that these are the points that the farmers are demanding from. We have been trying doing our own bit, but what else can we do? How can we help?
Thank you. Your question was to Dr. Darshan Pal?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Dr. Darshan Pal, can you? Yes.
I could not hear her. I could not hear her.
Can you hear us now? Can you hear me?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. So the question was how this is a group of people based in UK, I guess, was asking what.
Our group is based, I mean, some of us are in India, some of us are in UK.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Simran is in UK, I'm in India.
Okay, so it's a group based in India, asking what they can do to help out the farmers. How can they help?
More. I mean, we've been doing our bit, but would like to create more
awareness. I think various we are getting help from various groups in various forms. So what this group is constituted of? If they are youth, they can come to our gatherings. They can have some physical work there. If they are artists, they can perform there. If there are some students, they can help in doing various jobs there. No, I don't know what type of group that is. So it is not possible for me to ask them to help in such a particular.
Okay, thank you very much. So one more question.
Constituents of this group, please let us know, then we can tell them what type of help they can do.
All right, we are basically a Facebook.
Okay.
And,
can
I
Sinranjit Randawa, please? We listen to you. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, this is mainly to the gentleman with the Geneva University newspaper. When he talked about concerns about large gatherings, I just want to put out there that at the moment, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, he is holding very large election rallies in West Bengal, stages lasting over weeks. And he's trying to urge people to vote face-to-face and attend rallies in large numbers without masks. Whereas some other states, BJP, have gone into lockdown, the Prime Minister on TV, that there's no new lockdown nationally, even though it's on the red list for the UK and Boris Johnson's cancelled a planned trip to India, and there's a variant of concern at the moment in India, the double mutation. Modi is still being irresponsible and risking millions of additional lives of Indians of all religious faiths and backgrounds by holding large rallies. The farmers are trying to stay COVID safe. Modi is doing the opposite. And then to blame the farmer.
Okay. Thank you
That's all
for
I'm
your...
going to say.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for this for these questions. Are there other questions, please? Are there other questions from media, please? Are there media questions in the room? Okay, if there is no more questions, I think you're going to the final word. We're arriving to the end of this this press conference. As I said, you are here. Many of you are here on Zoom, but many more are following us on YouTube and on Facebook Live and on our website www.pressclub.ch. But if you have questions here from journalists first, I would appreciate if you can raise your hand and we can take one or two questions. So there is Professor Ashley. Perhaps let's take your questions. Please activate your mic.
Okay. I was wondering, can I share some content to support the question?
It's easier not, please, because we have no general discussion group here.
Okay, well, my question is that,
who are you, please? Can you just tell us who you are?
Yes, my name is Professor Ashley.
And you're from an organization?
From the Organization of Conservative Eskis.
Okay, very shortly.
My question is, how many of my Zoom boys are in here? Because we up in this, boy. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Ali, there is a question. Hello? Yes, please.
From Turkey. I have a question.
Yes.
If you put your finger...
Your name and organization, please.
My name is Ali Baba from the organization Pee in Toilet.
Okay. Okay. Who has a question from a media, please? I think we're going to stop here the conference, and perhaps one more question from We Support Farmers.
Yes, I think, Mr. Ruetschi, we just got spammed by some not very pleasant people. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say thank you to you for giving us this platform. I would appreciate if we had more platforms like this where we could raise our voice against what the Indian government is doing to the farmers, not necessarily the farmers. Our whole democracy seems to be in danger. And we need global support. We need people like you to make this more, maybe more common, so that more people can join in and we can have access to worldwide organizations that are able to support this fight. Because it's not just the fight for the farmers, it's the fight for democracy for the whole of India. And I think our democracy is at risk and we need to do something about it. So I just want to say a big thank you to you for letting us join this conversation and to have this platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So before wrapping up, perhaps a last question to all of the speakers of today. Please answer shortly. I know the question is very difficult, but please answer shortly. I would like to know what concretely can be done to find a solution. What's the action that should be undertaken now, and so that the problem can be solved? Please, can you start answering in the same, Mr. Perhaps we start with Mr. Rajewal, if you still can hear us, Mr. Rajewal. Okay, Mr. Pal, Dr. Pal, can you please activate your mic? Are you still there, Dr. Pal? Dr. Pal, okay. Who can answer? Oh, yeah. 1 second. So, Dr. Pal.
Yes.
Yes. We can hear you.
Hello. Number one, government should start the negotiation with the farmers. Number two, government should repeal these 3 acts and should frame a law for the 23 crops to get the minimum support price. Number 3, the government should later on come on the table to discuss with the farmers organizations and other intellectuals to find the solution of the agriculture crisis, to reform the agriculture, which may be possible according to the needs of the India, according to the needs of the people of India and the farming community of India. So basically, these are the 3 immediate steps which should be taken by the government of India. It is only the initiative is to be taken by the government of India.
Thank you. Now, Harmeet Gill. Mr. Harmeet Gill, can you please tell us what, in your views, are the steps to be taken to try to find a solution? Please activate your mic.
Thank you. Ultimately, it comes down to dialogue. They need to be sitting around the table, and the government needs to cede some ground. That's what negotiation is. So far, from everything we've heard and read in reports, is they're sticking firm, and that's not how negotiation will work. It needs genuine resolve. It needs a genuine commitment from the Indian part, from the government's part, to really want to achieve an amicable solution, and that's what's been lacking until now. Unfortunately, it feels they are being driven by politics, which of course makes sense, and not a genuine desire to actually help farmers. So it'll come down to a genuine resolve, wanting to find a solution. And that's what's needed from the state side.
Thank you. Ms. Kavita Kuruganti, can you perhaps give your solution, your way to go to a solution?
Well, I mean, we'll be repeating ourselves. Dr. Darshan Pal had already said that the talks have to begin and we don't need multiple rounds of talks anymore. The government just has to repeal these laws. And it's easy enough to do that, given that the Supreme Court of India has already suspended the implementation of the laws, and the government itself was willing to suspend it for 1.5 years or more. So it's just a matter of agreeing to the demands, and importantly, for the more than 385 lives that got sacrificed during the current agitation. What is certainly required before farmers can get up and go back home is a law that guarantees remunerative prices. And that is something that the government of India should realize is good for the party which is in power. For themselves, they've got to do this too, other than doing this for the farmers of the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Balbir Singh Rajewal. Mr. Rajewal, can you hear us? Okay. Tell us what your steps are to try to find a solution, steps that should be taken now. Thank you.
I think the government of India has no answer to our questions. They are on the wrong foot. They don't have any logic to defend itself. So even then, we would like to request the government to come forward for a solution. We are ready to negotiate, but without repealing the laws, we won't go back. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, please, to Joginder Singh Toor. Can you hear us? Mr. Singh Toor?
Yes, I'm hearing. To my mind, two steps should be taken by the central government to initiate these things. One is recognize the right of the farmers to minimum support price as their legal right. Number two, prescribing that the cost of the produce when sold will not be less than the minimum support price. Nobody should be allowed to purchase below the minimum support price. Reason being that only the farmers in India have a right to fix the price of their produce for the past 100 years. The price is fixed by the purchaser. Now the farmers are asserting that we should be able to get the minimum support price, which should not be less than our cost price. Even the minimum support price is less than cost price. The price to be fixed by the government as minimum support price should not be less than minimum support price, and nobody should be allowed to purchase the same below the minimum support price. There should be a law making it penal that if anybody takes the disadvantage of the farmers' inability to press for a price, then that would be considered an extortion and it should be punishable under the law. It should be made punishable. Third is that the selling part should not be given in the hands of the traders or the corporate sector. It should be with the farmers. The farmers should, the state government should decide. And fourth is that if the state government makes a law, under Article 254, it is required that when there is a division of the right to legislate, and if the state legislates on the same subject, and if it gets the assent of the president instead of that of the governor, then the law made by the state will operate. This government of India should advise the president, if the law made by the state government comes to him for assent, he should grant assent. Presently, Punjab government has framed laws that have been sent to the president for assent. The president is withholding the assent and is not allowing them. So we have to take fundamental steps and legal steps to ensure that the farmers are compensated and they go home satisfactorily. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And now for the, I would like to ask Mr. Walder, can you tell us if you have, I know it's not of your decision for sure, but if you could think of having to manage the situation, what is important for you to happen now, and what steps must be taken in your views? Thank you, Mr. Walder. Can you activate your mic?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. But as said, I think the solution is mainly the end of the government Modi to refrain from usage of force, to withdraw the laws, and to open a really honest and frank discussion dialogue with the farmers in order to find a really good solution and a prospective solution. On my view, what we can do as non-Indians and non-living in India is to support that fight, to make it known, because a lot of people still don't know what's happening, especially with COVID. We're talking a lot about COVID, but not too much about the farmer fight, and to make it known, to support, to denounce eventual violence, and to press the Indian government for dialogue. That's what we can do, and that's what and we're going to do here in Switzerland as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now to wrap up with this question of the next steps to take, so to try to find a solution, I'd like to ask this question to Jasdev Singh Rai. Please activate your mic. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an Indian issue, so it has to be resolved finally between the farmers and the government. But there is, as Mr. Walder has said in his earlier talk, there is an existential issue for the international farming community. India has often been a laboratory for these sort of trends that happen in the world, whether it was the East India Company which set the trend for colonization around the world, and then there have been other things like the Green Revolution, which set the trend for big multinational to take over of farming through the seeds and things like that. And here, I think there is a lot of pressure from what is not being said in the whole debate is the international agribusiness, which is behind this as well. And if in India, the small farming community gets destroyed, that's going to be a pattern being taken around the world in other countries. And this is why it's important, not just for the Indian farmers and the Indians to be taking this seriously, but the farming communities and the farmers' unions around the world, because that will be a model that might get replicated in the rest of the world by big corporations. You've seen the corporate sector around the world taking advantage of many things, and I think this is what's happening in India. I'm not sure whether the government of India itself can resolve this. I think the government of India may have to stand up to or against the international agribusiness, which may be putting pressure on it to go to on this line. I think they need to look at their own country. They need to sit with their farmers and bring the country together on this, really. So I don't see this just as the Modi government and a farmer issue. I think there are other forces behind this which are beyond the control of the government of India.
Thank you very much. So I think we will have to wrap up this press conference. I thank all of the speakers for their implication on this very important topic in India. And thank you to all of you, wherever you are in UK or in India or here in Geneva, Switzerland. And I welcome you back anytime on at the Geneva Press Club. So welcome again, and I hope you have a good day and a lot of courage with this difficult situation to all of you. Thank you very much, and bye-bye. I'm sorry, there is one more question of a journalist, Mr. Lorenzi. We take that question. Last question. Mr. Lorenzi, can you hear us? Hello?
Yes, but it wasn't a question, it was just claps of celebrating the conference.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were very good. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for the participation, and have a good day. Bye-bye.